morning and welcome to another edition of Home of the World's Worst Weather Live. My name is Ian Bailey. I am a meteorologist and education specialist, and I'm part of a crew of 6 observers that live and work on the top of Mount Washington, taking hourly weather observations, putting out forecast products, and conducting research from the top of New England. So it's another Tuesday edition of Home of the World's Worst Weather Live, so we're going to be taking a look at the forecast for the next 48 hours as well as some current summer conditions happening up here right now. So let's go ahead and dive right into that so you guys can see what's happening here on top of Mount Washington. So we do have some elevated wind speeds right now. They're actually a little bit lower. We started off in the 70 to 80 mile per hour range to start our shift today. We're down to about 60 miles per hour. We came just shy of hurricane force winds over our 10-minute gust up there at 72 miles per hour. And you can see over the last 24 hours, we've seen a gust up to 100 miles per hour. So pretty windy conditions, albeit, we do have high pressure moving in, as you'll see in just a moment. So we are starting to kind of clear out, but we do have pretty elevated wind speeds by comparison for what we'd expect for high pressure. We are sitting in the fog right now as well, and that is, again, we're in and out of the fog at this point. We do have a pretty low visibility, only 1/8 of a mile, so that's a little bit further than what we're used to for normal foggy conditions. We'll see if we do break out into mostly clear conditions by the end of the day. Taking a look at our vertical temperature profile, again, this comes from our mesonet, a series of weather stations that go from the top of Mount Washington all the way back down to the base. And you can see down there in the lower sections of the mountain, you can see we are just above freezing, but then the upper 2/3 here are below freezing, and our temperature profile is decreasing with height as we would expect, so nothing out of the ordinary there. Pretty much typical conditions for this transitional time of year. We're still technically in bits of winter, but summer is just around the corner. So let's take a look at what this looks like outside. Nothing terribly impressive for you to see. Again, we are sitting in the fog, so you can't see terribly far across the observation deck. We did get a bit more snow yesterday, so you can see that has blanketed the observation deck. And you can see a little bit of the railing as well, and snow and ice that has built up on the sides of our camera here. But again, not really much to look at this point. Again, we'll be hoping to see if we can get some sunshine by the end of the day today. And we'll go ahead and show you what sunrise looked like so you can see, yes, we are very much sitting in the fog, and there are even some low-lying clouds down there in the valley below, blocking bits of the camera there. But look at this impressively thick fog bank that's sitting on top of us. And so, again, we had brief moments of clarity, but I mean, just look how tall and thick it is sitting right on top of the summit. You could even, just for a moment, see some Peleus clouds right there. And again, this has pretty much been the case all morning with little sparks of sunshine here and there as we have been sitting inside of these clouds. So let's go ahead and take a look at the forecast for the next couple of days and see what's going on. We're going to start off with our satellite view as we do, so let's go ahead and see if we can identify different pressure systems across the country. And of course, like always, we'll start off with our low pressures, and we're looking for counterclockwise rotation and some disturbances in the atmosphere. Again, we're looking at infrared satellites, so you're looking at developed cloud tops where the brighter colors are indicating taller, more well-developed cloud tops, and the gray colors are either clear conditions or really low clouds. So immediately I'm seeing the low pressure that moved through yesterday right here with a bit of rotation still, which is still having some impact on our area. So that's the easiest one to spot right off the bat. We also have a big low pressure system hanging out here over the Rockies, kind of spread out and broken apart as it does make its way across the Rocky Mountain range. But there is plenty of developed clouds in that area that will be moving down through into the Central Plains over the next 48 hours. We do have a bit of a disturbance down here, but that's actually as the result of some high pressure. Let's go ahead and identify some regions of high pressure. Immediately, I'm drawn to this giant clear section right here, where there's a nice elongated region of high pressure that will be moving down into the mid-Atlantic. There's also a region of high pressure here down in the southeast, which is rotating just around like this. You can see it's actually picking up moisture from the Gulf of Mexico and pushing it here into the south central plains, which is what's drawing this convective buildup here. And so we'll be watching how these high pressure systems move over the next 48 hours, what influence the low still has in our neck of the woods up here in the northeast, and how this low pressure system over the northwest part of the country behaves going forward. So these are the big high pressure and low pressure systems that are at play. And again, it's really cool that we can identify these just looking at a satellite feed. So that's what's going on in the big picture. Let's go ahead and jump to our maps and start talking about what's going on the synoptic scale. If you're up here in the northeast part of the country, it's actually looking to be a pretty quiet next 48 hours or so. But if you're down in the central or south central plains, you're in for a bit of severe weather. We'll talk about why here in just a minute. So again, this is our synoptic view. We're taking a look nationally at what's going on. Here's a low pressure system from yesterday, and it is not a terribly impressively strong low pressure, but it is building in intensity as it starts to move off to the northeast. Here are these big regions of high pressure, and we're going to pay a lot of attention to the one here that's down in the southeast because it's going to form what we call a low-level jet, which I'll show you guys in just a moment. And then, of course, we have the low pressure there out over the Rockies that is slowly building and will continue to do so over the next 48 hours. So let's step into the afternoon hours today. Now, what's going on is the high pressure system is gathering a lot of moisture here from the Gulf of Mexico and starting to rotate it in around its backside of the system and creating what we call a low-level jet. So this is going to eventually form into a channel of air that is pulling moisture from the Gulf of Mexico, rotating it around and then bringing it up into the northeast. Now, at the same time, we have the dry high pressure that's moving down from the north central plains, and these two air masses are going to meet, and when they do, it will create an unstable atmosphere. The warm, moist air will want to rise over the cool, dry air, and you'll be expecting some severe thunderstorms to form, especially down here in eastern Texas. I know that there is a severe thunderstorm watch already out, and I know a bunch of my storm chaser friends are talking about some tornado watches that might go up later in the day. So again, if you're down here in the southern plains, particularly in eastern Texas, it should be a pretty interesting day for severe weather, so make sure that you're tuning in and paying attention to that and following any watches and warnings that get put out. So that's the high pressure that's drawing all this moisture in. The low will be stepping in and contributing to that heading into Wednesday. So let's go ahead and see how that plays out. So this is overnight into tomorrow morning into Wednesday. The high pressure system is moving into the northeast and pretty much creating clear and stable conditions. Up here in the northeast, though, we still have that low pressure that moved off. It's still influencing us from the Canadian Maritime, so we're expecting our wind speeds to remain elevated through the most of this forecast period that we're looking at here. We also have this low pressure that's now crossed over the Rockies and starting to work its way down. It's going to amplify this low-level jet, which will form here in just a moment. So stepping into Wednesday afternoon, now you can see all of this moisture that's starting to come off the Gulf and congeal over the south central plains again. Another round of severe thunderstorms during that time period. And then as we step into Thursday proper, now we can really see that low-level jet forming. So let me go ahead and show you the channel right here, where all this moisture is being rotated up and into the central plains, and then will come around the Great Lakes and into the northeast. So let's see how that steps forward heading into Friday, just before the beginning of a weekend here. So if you're up here in the Great Lakes region, lots of moisture coming your way, maybe some showers and thunderstorms associated with that. We're just outside of that Friday morning, but then heading into the weekend for us up here in the northeast, we're expecting some rainy conditions. So severe weather in the south central plains, at least for the next 24 to 36 hours. And then as this low-level jet forms, the mid-Atlantic, the Great Lakes, and then parts of the northeast will see showers and storms as well, headed into the weekend. Also, let's take a look at temperatures. So we've had this cold air mass sitting over us, especially since Mother's Day. And so how is that going to continue going forward into the latter part of this week? So this is right now 8 o'clock this morning. You can see we have some cold temperatures coming down, especially behind this low pressure as it moves out. It is grabbing all this cold air from the northwest and blasting it down into our region. So we are sitting in some pretty low temperatures today, down in the lower teens. We might even get down to around 10 degrees as the day progresses. But when we have this low-level jet forming, it's going to grab all of this warm air over the Gulf and bring it up in. So if you've been seeing or hearing on the news that there is a temperature increase coming in for the mid-Atlantic and northeast, that is absolutely true. So let's see how that plays out. Heading into the afternoon and evening hours tonight, again, all of this cold air is coming in from the northwest. Down in the mid-Atlantic and south central, you're seeing an increase in temperatures as warm air rotates around that high. Headed into tomorrow, so this is tomorrow morning, headed into early tomorrow afternoon. Again, you can see the warm temperatures creeping even further up into the Great Lakes region. We're still sitting in the cold temperatures up here, unfortunately, because we're still getting that cold air coming in from the northwest behind our previous low. And then headed into the evening hours into Thursday morning, here it comes. So here's our low-level jet grabbing all this warm, moist air, pushing it up past the Great Lakes region down into the southwest parts of New England. And then as we get into Friday, there are all the warm temperatures that you've been hearing about. So this cold air mass will finally move out of the way. Maybe we'll start to see some temperatures representative of spring, maybe even a little bit warmer than that as we head into the weekend proper. So that'll be interesting to watch to see how warm these temperatures get as they're pulled in from the Gulf and blasted all the way up into the northeast. We'll see how hot it gets as far as our neck of the woods here, which we're going to jump to. So now we're looking at the mesoscale. So this is the regional look for the northeast region. Here's the low that we were talking about. Moved through yesterday, dumped some snow up here on the summit. Still lingering, but it will move out over the course of the day today. So let's head into the afternoon hours as it starts to move off into the Canadian Maritimes. It is still rotating what we call upper level disturbances, some shortwave features in the mid to upper levels of the atmosphere that could contribute to some light snow showers this afternoon. You can see in north central New York beginning to move into Vermont, there's some pockets of precipitation associated with that upper level disturbance. It looks like as far as Mount Washington is concerned, it's going to just dive directly south of us. So we probably won't see much more, especially now that we have high pressure starting to move in for Wednesday. So we'll head into Wednesday morning and into Wednesday afternoon. Again, really not a whole lot to show here for precipitation. We have a 1030 millibar high that's moving in, so lots of dry air that will be coming in. But you can even see down here on the bottom left portion of the map the moisture that's coming along with that low-level jet which will be much more identifiable here as we get to the end of the forecast period. So by Wednesday, the center of the high is moving over New England, headed into Thursday morning. Now we can see here comes the initial band of precipitation and the trail of moisture that's coming along with that low-level jet. And so by the end of the day on Thursday into the afternoon, parts of the Great Lakes region will be seeing precipitation showers and be expecting that. Nothing terribly heavy at this point, but it will be continuous, maybe a day or two of precipitation, so long as that low-level jet persists. Let's take a look at temperature and wind as well. So now we can see the cold air mass here to the northwest that's being pulled down behind this low pressure as it moves off. So at least for the next 24 hours or so, we'll be experiencing pretty chilly temperatures up here with our elevated wind speeds. We do have elevated winds up in northern New Hampshire and Maine, which we'll see in just a moment, but plenty of cold air that's coming down. Now down here in the southwest part of the map, you can see the warm temperatures beginning to creep in with that low-level jet, headed into Wednesday morning and then Wednesday afternoon. Now we're getting to the mid-afternoon hours on Wednesday. You can see that cold air mass has really at this point moved off, and we're starting to see warmer temperatures move in. So by Wednesday evening into Thursday morning, here comes the high. Here comes all of that warm air. Wind speeds up here still elevated as we're getting upper level disturbances from that previous low. Just won't let go of us, unfortunately. And then into Thursday afternoon, that's when we really start to see the warm temperatures move in, shift in the wind direction, and maybe some lighter wind speeds as well. Now, speaking of wind, let's go ahead and take a look at windy here to see what the profile is for the next couple of days. You can very clearly see this low pressure system just off to our northeast here. Still having an effect on central and southwestern Maine, and then where we are in central northern New Hampshire. As we step forward, we can actually watch, which you couldn't see on the other maps before, this low tracking off into the Canadian Maritimes and actually getting pretty strong. It's got a pretty nice jet maximum rotating on its northeast side and still influencing parts of Maine all the way into to the evening hours tonight, headed into tomorrow morning. So here is one of these upper level disturbances I was talking about, contributing to our elevated wind speeds even during the overnight hours into tomorrow morning. So we'll still be seeing 60 to 80 mile per hour winds up here on the summit, and it doesn't really look like it's going to slow down really until that high pressure system moves in. So we can see now we're even getting into the evening hours headed into Thursday, still seeing the effects of these upper level disturbances from this low all the way up here. So the pressure gradient between this low and the incoming high is so strong, and these upper level disturbances are having such an influence that we're having elevated wind speeds for the next 48 hours. So it really won't be until Thursday evening into Friday. So now we can see the ridge of high pressure has moved in. Things have calmed down briefly during the evening hours on Thursday, and then on Friday, as the low-level jet starts to build, which you can clearly see at this point, it too has its own jet maximum, and we'll be watching to see if it progresses a little further to the north, might have more of an influence on New England proper. So again, for us, there's really not a whole lot going on except for up here we're having elevated wind speeds, maybe another smattering of precipitation with these upper-level disturbances, but then high pressure moving in for the next 48 hours, and then we'll be watching this low-level jet and precipitation to come in headed into the weekend. Again, if you're down in the south central plains today and tomorrow, you can expect severe weather, thunderstorms, and possibly some tornadoes. So keep an eye on your watches and warnings and pay attention to weather alerts and be very aware of what's going on for the next day or so. So yeah, that's what's going on with our forecast. If you guys are looking for more information, you can head to mountwashington.org to the higher summits forecast, where you can see David has put up the forecast from last night where he talks about this low pressure moving off and how it's going to have an impact on our winds, and then what we'll be expecting for that high pressure moving in for the next couple of days. So make sure you guys check that out. And also you can head to the classroom page to continuously get more information about what's going on with our programs for the foreseeable future. So there's our schedule. You can scroll down a little bit and see what we're going to be talking about next. So Tom will be up here next Monday talking about thunderstorm types like squall lines and supercells and derechos. Really fascinating storm structures, so make sure that you tune in for that. And of course, you can check out all of our previous videos. If you missed yesterday's lightning talk, which is really exciting, one of my favorite things to talk about, make sure you can go back and watch the video there, as well as any of the other previous broadcasts a little bit further down. So yeah, make sure you guys check that out. Check out the worksheet and the activity for this week. And then, of course, if you have any questions, feel free to let us know. And speaking of questions, if you guys have any questions in chat, feel free to go ahead and post them. Jay, do we have any so far?
Yeah, we do.
Great.
One interesting one is actually about the weather from yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
As you can recall, people had a lot of graupel and hail
Yep.
That you saw on social media. So Amy would like to know what kind of fronts or air masses were in the area to have caused that kind of precipitation?
So yesterday when that low was moving through, even though it's a relatively weak system, it was still occluding once it entered the Gulf of Maine, and we were seeing a relatively small warm front and a fairly predominant cold front, as well as a secondary cold air boundary that moved in behind that system as it started to swing off into the Canadian Maritimes. So I believe it's that secondary cold air boundary that swung through that led to the grapple and some of the hail and some of the thunderstorms that you guys saw in the afternoons during, the south central parts of New England yesterday. They were getting hit. Or right along the coastline there. So yeah, it would be typical frontal systems as well as that secondary cold air boundary that led to the precipitation you guys were seeing, which was fascinating to follow on social media. So yeah, what else we got?
Let's see. Paige would like to know, if lightning is electricity, why does the power go out during storms?
That is a very good question. So yesterday we talked about step leaders, which is the electrical charge that comes down from the base of the thunderstorm, as well as upward streamers, which are the positive invisible forces that are reaching up from the ground as part of the attraction to that step leader. And when they make a connection, that's when you see the lightning bolt go off. If that upward streamer comes from, let's say, a telephone pole or an electrical box, and lightning strikes that and causes it to explode or get destroyed, oftentimes you lose power as a result of one of those transformers, one of those electrical boxes going out or getting hit. Sometimes it will cause, if your house gets struck, for example, the wiring will see that electrical discharge run through your building. That can disrupt the power flow to your house as well. That can cause your power to go out. So it really just depends on where lightning strikes and if it destroys a transformer or if it disrupts the wiring in your house. That's why you see the power go out sometimes during some stronger thunderstorms. So yeah, good question. What else?
Cooper would like to know why the 50,000 degree heat from lightning does not melt snow on the ground, or does it?
That's a really good question. The short answer is I actually don't know. I imagine in the spot where it directly strikes, not the lightning bolt itself would melt snow because it happens so quickly, it's so fast, but the ground current from that strike, what comes out, the discharge from where the lightning bolt struck, that might cause some snow to melt. And in some cases, stronger lightning bolts have caused turf to blow up and create little craters in the ground. So I imagine it's probably a cause of the ground current melting, not the direct strike itself. So that would be my guess, but otherwise I'm not sure. We'd have to look up and let you know. So
yeah, I would say just because air is such a good insulator, the heat from the bolt actually doesn't go out very far.
Right, exactly. Very good, Jay. Thank you. What else we got?
Reed would like to know if thunder could cause any kind of damage.
That's a very interesting question, and to my knowledge, the best that you could get would be like the shock wave and the reverberation from being really close to to a lightning strike creating thunder might cause some window damage. I know when I was a kid, lightning struck a tree right outside my bedroom window and caused the window to explode inwards. Now, I don't know if it was the force of the lightning strike, the exploding tree, or the resulting thunder crack that blew the window out, but it certainly could. Up here, when we see direct strikes being so close to us, we have bulletproof windows, so they don't really see much of an effect from the thunder itself. I would imagine it's the force of the lightning strike more than the reverberation of thunder, but hard to say. So, yeah. What else?
Evan would like to know what kind of material the observation tower is made of, and if it helps divert lightning strikes.
So the observation tower is a combination of a lot of concrete and some metal that goes through the inside of the tower as well as the outside of the tower, and then we have wooden shingles on the outside as well. So what makes the tower a really good conductor for electricity is all of the metal that runs down through them. When we do have thunderstorms up here, we actually stop people from using the tower in case it gets hit by lightning. Lightning's going to run down all of those metal bits to the base and then down into the ground. But we also have grounding wires and things like that that help divert the electrical discharge into the mountain itself. And so we have lots of different materials that are good for diverting that electrical charge and stopping it from really doing any damage to instrumentation other than the arm young if we happen to accidentally leave that up there, which shouldn't do. But yeah, so a lot of concrete, a lot of metal, and then grounding cables for sure. Yeah, we'll take a couple more. We got time.
Rebecca would like to know if there has ever been a weather event that has threatened the safety of the observatory and the other buildings on the summit.
Not a weather event per se. I know in our history we've had some fires that have threatened the safety up here. But this building is very sturdily built, and it's 2 feet of reinforced concrete and steel that runs through the entirety of this building. And when it was built back in 1980, it was actually rated up to 300 mile per hour winds, and we haven't even really come close to that since the building's construction. And even all the way back to 1934, the 231 mile per hour wind event didn't blow what is now the stage office off the top of the tower, those heavy metal, the top of the mountain. Those heavy metal chains anchored it down to the summit, and it didn't go anywhere, even in 231 mile per hour winds. So I would say there probably hasn't been a weather event that has really threatened our safety up here, but things like fires, definitely for sure. So, yeah. We'll take one more. What do we got?
Grayson would like to know if thunder ever sounds like a gunshot.
Yeah, up here, very much so. The closer you are to the direct strike, the louder and more of like a crack it's going to sound. If you go back and watch yesterday's video, part of it I would assume sounds a little bit like a gunshot. I describe it more like somebody smashing a metal garbage can with a baseball bat right next to your head. So it really just depends on how close you are to the lightning strike. To determine what kind of sound you're going to hear. If you're right next to it, it very much might sound like a gunshot. If you're far away, like 10 miles or more, it might just sound like a low rumble. So it just depends on how close you are. So yeah, great questions today, guys. Thank you so much. Man, you're really making me think. So very good. Unfortunately, this is my last broadcast with you guys for the week. Tom will be coming up tomorrow as part of our shift change, and you can meet with him Thursday morning at 11:15 for his forecast discussion. He'll be taking a look how the weather's going to play out for the next weekend. And definitely tune in next Monday for his talk on different types of thunderstorms, because squall lines and especially supercells are really, really fascinating storms to look at. So make sure you guys tune in for that. Don't forget to check out the classroom page. And if you guys have any questions, feel free to directly message us on Facebook, Instagram, or Twitter. And I also promise I'll try to go back and answer any questions I didn't get to today in the chat. So thank you all so much for joining, and I'll see you when I'm up next time. Have a good day.